1 cent. More like one treasure. These ultra-rare pennies are blowing collectors' minds, and their wallets. Welcome to the world of unbelievable coin finds. Make sure to watch till the end, because one of these tiny coins could be hiding in your pocket right now. The 1983 USA 1 cent penny might seem like an ordinary coin at first glance, but it holds a secret that has made it one of the most fascinating and valuable pieces of currency in American history. What makes this penny so special? It all comes down to a rare minting error, one that could make a coin worth far more than its face value. To understand why the 1983 penny stands out, let's step back in time to the early 1980s. The United States was in the midst of an economic shift, with inflation rising and the cost of materials increasing. Copper, which had been used for decades in the production of pennies, was becoming too expensive to continue using at such a high ratio. The U.S. Mint faced a dilemma: how could they continue producing pennies without spending more money than they were worth? In response to this issue, a major change was made. In 1982, the U.S. Mint transitioned the penny from its traditional copper content to a copper-plated zinc composition. This switch significantly reduced production costs, and the new formula for the penny was born. However, here's where things get interesting. In 1983, the Mint accidentally mixed in a small number of pennies made with the old copper formula. These were supposed to be the last pennies struck with pure copper, but due to a rare mistake, a few of them made it through the process. What resulted were pennies that looked identical to the new zinc pennies, but were actually made of the much more valuable copper. Why does this matter? The copper pennies from 1983 are incredibly rare, and over time, they've become highly sought after by collectors. After all, when a coin is struck by mistake and in such a limited quantity, it's not just a piece of currency, it becomes a historical artifact, a treasure in the world of numismatics. But how can you tell the difference between the rare copper pennies and the more common zinc ones? Well, the two types of pennies are very similar at first glance. They share the same size, weight, and design, the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But the crucial difference lies in their composition. The copper pennies weigh 3.11 grams, while the zinc pennies are slightly lighter at 2.5 grams. While it may not be immediately obvious to the naked eye, one way to test is by using a magnet. Zinc pennies are magnetic, while copper pennies are not. So, if you have a 1983 penny that doesn't stick to a magnet, there's a good chance it's made of copper. But to be completely sure, it's always best to have the penny authenticated by a professional. The rarity of these copper pennies is what makes them so valuable. Collectors are always on the lookout for coins that have been struck in error, and the 1983 copper penny is a perfect example of a mistake that turned into a gem. Over the years, these coins have gained more and more attention, and demand for them has skyrocketed. But how much is a 1983 copper penny actually worth? It's hard to believe, but these pennies, which were originally worth just 1 cent, can now fetch incredible amounts of money. In fact, some of these rare coins have sold for an astonishing amount at auction. The price reflects not only the rarity of the coin but also the story behind it, a story of an accidental minting error, a change in the way pennies were produced, and the fascination of collectors who seek out these hidden treasures. The fact that a small mistake led to a coin worth a small fortune is a reminder of just how unpredictable the world of coin collecting can be. So, how do you go about finding one of these rare pennies? If you're an avid coin collector or just happen to have a jar of loose change, it's worth taking the time to examine your 1983 pennies. The copper variety is incredibly rare, so you may not find one easily, but it's definitely worth looking. If you do have a 1983 penny that might be made of copper, you should get it professionally assessed. Collectors and numismatists often spend years tracking down rare coins, sometimes paying hefty amounts for just one penny if it's the right kind. Online auctions, specialized coin shops, and collectors' forums are great places to start if you're serious about getting your hands on a 1983 copper penny. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate the larger picture. Coin collecting is more than just acquiring rare items, it's about preserving history, connecting with the past, and sometimes finding beauty in the unexpected. A simple penny, created by mistake, has become one of the most sought-after and valuable coins in the world. It's a perfect example of how even the smallest things can have a huge impact, a lesson for collectors and enthusiasts alike. And as we wrap up, let's not forget that the value of the 1983 copper penny can vary depending on its condition and provenance. If you think you might have one, make sure to take care of it. Clean it carefully, store it properly, and get it graded by a professional service to ensure that it maintains its value. Coins like this only become more valuable as they age, and the stories they carry are priceless. As we reach the end of this fascinating journey, remember that sometimes the most ordinary objects are hiding extraordinary secrets. The 1983 copper penny is a perfect example of how something as simple as a penny can tell a much larger story. And who knows, if you're lucky enough to find one, you might just hold a piece of history in your hand. Some rare 1983 copper pennies have sold for as much as $105,000. Top 2, the 1994 USA 1-cent penny, like most coins, may seem like a simple and common piece of currency. But, hidden in plain sight, it has an intriguing story that has caught the attention of collectors and numismatists. The value of the 1994 penny isn't what it seems at first glance. It's a coin that holds more than meets the eye. Let's take a step back to the early 1990s. The United States was navigating through an era of significant economic changes, transitioning from the optimism of the 1980s into a period of global competitiveness and technological advancement. During this time, the U.S. Mint was continuing its work to produce the coins that would make up the everyday currency Americans used. In 1994, the penny, or 1-cent coin, continued to feature the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln, which had been in use since 1909. But even in an era where change was happening all around the world, the penny's design remained constant, just like the other circulating coins of that time. Despite this, there was an ongoing debate about the cost of producing pennies, especially since the metal used to make them had risen significantly in price. The penny, which had been made from 95% copper and 5% zinc for much of its history, was gradually changing. The 1994 penny was made of 97.5% zinc, coated with a thin layer of copper. This change began in 1982 when the U.S. Mint made a significant shift to reduce the cost of producing pennies due to inflation and rising copper prices. By 1994, the composition of the penny was already in its new form, which allowed the mint to make a penny at a fraction of the cost it took to mint pennies before. But the 1994 penny wasn't just notable for its composition. It's also the last year in which the penny's reverse design featured the familiar Lincoln Memorial. The memorial had been on the back of the penny for over 50 years, but starting in 2009, the U.S. Mint introduced a series of new designs to commemorate the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth. So, in a way, the 1994 penny marks the final year of the Lincoln Memorial design, making it a historical artifact in its own right. While the penny itself was not necessarily rare in 1994, collectors and enthusiasts would later recognize that specific errors and variations made some of these pennies extraordinarily valuable. A number of 1994 pennies were minted with a variety of features, such as double dies and other striking errors, that set them apart from the usual run-of-the-mill pennies. It's these error coins, rare anomalies in the minting process, that collectors have been eager to find. The value of a 1994 penny isn't just determined by its date and design, it's often driven by these unexpected twists of fate in the minting process. So what makes these coins so valuable in today's market? The key is rarity. As more and more pennies were produced in the 1990s, the chances of finding a rare error coin grew slimmer. But every year, a few pennies managed to escape the mint's process with noticeable mistakes, and those pennies have become highly sought after by collectors. In particular, the 1994 penny with a double die error has become one of the most desired among enthusiasts. These coins feature an unmistakable double image on the obverse of the coin, making Lincoln's portrait appear as if it were struck twice. It's an unusual mistake, but one that adds a level of mystery and intrigue to the penny. A double die error occurs during the die-making process, where the design is incorrectly stamped onto the die, causing the image to be struck more than once, creating a ghost effect. For collectors, finding one of these errors can be like discovering a hidden treasure in a pile of change. Another feature that makes the 1994 penny interesting is its role in the broader context of American coinage. Over the years, the penny has been subject to debates about its usefulness in modern currency. Some people argue that the penny is no longer necessary and that it costs more to produce than it is worth. But despite these conversations, the penny has remained an iconic part of American culture and history. From being a symbol of savings to becoming a coin of great interest for collectors, the penny has seen its fair share of changes, and its value continues to evolve. The 1994 penny stands as a reminder of the continuity of American coinage and the subtle shifts that occur in the world of currency. While the penny's face value remains just 1 cent, it's important to understand that coins can take on a life of their own. Through rare mistakes or limited editions, a single penny can transform from a simple piece of change to a collector's prized possession. Now, let's talk about the current value of these coins. While a standard 1994 penny is still worth just 1 cent, there are certain rare variations and minting errors that can fetch extraordinary amounts of money. For example, a 1994 penny with a double die error can sell for hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars, depending on its condition. These pennies are in demand because of their rarity and the unique story they tell. However, the most extraordinary of all is the 1994 penny in pristine condition, particularly one with a rare minting flaw. Some of these error coins have sold for as much as $84,000 at auctions. A penny worth just 1 cent, now valued in the tens of thousands, shows just how incredible the world of numismatics can be. It's a fascinating reminder that even the most seemingly insignificant objects can have incredible value, especially when they come with a rich history and a unique story to tell. Whether you're a collector or just someone interested in the strange world of rare coins, the 1994 penny offers a glimpse into the fascinating world of coin collecting. With its combination of history, design, and unexpected minting errors, this humble penny has captured the imagination of many and continues to be a valuable piece of American currency. Top 3. In the world of coin collecting, even the most seemingly ordinary objects can become a fascinating story. Take the 2016 USA 1-cent penny, for example. On the surface, this coin might appear to be just another everyday piece of currency, yet behind its simple copper-plated exterior lies a rich tale of history, design, and rare errors that have caught the attention of collectors across the world. Let's take a step back and look at the historical context of the 2016 penny. By 2016, the U.S. Mint had been producing pennies for over 200 years, and the 1-cent coin had undergone numerous changes throughout its history. The first U.S. penny was introduced in 1793, and over the centuries, the design, size, and materials of the coin have evolved in response to changing economic conditions and the cost of raw materials. By the time 2016 rolled around, the penny had become a familiar part of American currency. It had been in circulation for over 2 centuries and had seen a range of designs, from the original Lady Liberty image to the iconic Lincoln portrait that has graced the front of the coin since 1909. Most recently, since 1959, the back of the penny featured the Lincoln Memorial, a symbol of the nation's history and a nod to the 16th president's legacy. In 2016, however, the penny took on a slightly different identity, one that was perhaps less about history and more about the future. As the world continued to evolve technologically and economically, there were ongoing debates about the usefulness of the penny. Many argued that it was no longer necessary, given its low purchasing power and the high cost of production. The conversation about whether or not to eliminate the penny from circulation was louder than ever. Despite these ongoing debates, the U.S. Mint continued producing pennies in 2016, and the design remained largely the same. The 2016 penny features the same Lincoln portrait on the obverse, and the reverse design still showed the Lincoln Memorial. However, the year 2016 marked a significant point in the penny's life because it was the final year in which the Lincoln Memorial design appeared on the reverse of the coin. In 2017, the U.S. Mint began a new series of reverse designs to commemorate the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln Cent, and the Lincoln Memorial would be retired in favor of a new design celebrating Lincoln's life and legacy. While the basic design stayed the same, 2016 saw a number of smaller yet significant shifts in the penny's production. The U.S. Mint had long since moved to a composition of 97.5% zinc with a thin copper plating, a change made in the 1980s to reduce the cost of producing pennies. This composition remained the same for the 2016 penny, and despite ongoing discussions about the cost-effectiveness of minting pennies, the U.S. Mint continued to produce billions of them every year. But what really makes the 2016 penny stand out is the opportunity it presented for collectors. While the penny itself was not particularly rare or special when it first entered circulation, it soon became clear that certain factors could turn this relatively mundane coin into a valuable piece of numismatic history. One of the key factors that made the 2016 penny interesting to collectors was the possibility of minting errors. Coin errors, such as double strikes, misprints, and off-center impressions, can make a seemingly ordinary penny worth a significant amount of money. When the U.S. Mint produces a coin, it's typically part of a well-controlled process, but mistakes happen. These mistakes often result in coins that are far rarer than the typical run, and they are prized by collectors who are willing to pay premium prices to own them. For the 2016 penny, one of the most sought-after variations was a misstruck coin. These are pennies that didn't receive the proper strike from the dies, resulting in errors that could range from slight distortions to dramatic changes in the coin's appearance. These types of coins are considered rare, and as a result, they can command a higher price on the market. Other potential variations include the presence of die cracks, off-center strikes, and other flaws that make the coin unique. Additionally, some 2016 pennies were struck in limited numbers for special purposes, such as those produced for specific proof sets or other specialized coin series. Proof coins are struck with extra care and precision to create a flawless coin, and collectors often seek out proof pennies from every year of production, including 2016. A proof penny from 2016, especially one in excellent condition, can be a valuable addition to a collection, as it represents a carefully made example of this iconic coin. As time passed, the 2016 penny began to gain recognition as a potential treasure for collectors, particularly because of the minor production errors and the looming retirement of the Lincoln Memorial reverse. In addition, the ongoing debate about the penny's future only increased its appeal. As fewer and fewer pennies were being produced, especially considering the rise of digital payments and the push for the elimination of low-value coins, the 2016 penny started to become more coveted by those looking to capture a piece of history. While the penny itself might not have been worth much more than its face value when it was first released, the 2016 penny quickly became a popular item for those involved in the world of numismatics. And as more and more collectors turned their attention to this seemingly simple coin, the prices began to rise. That if you were lucky enough to stumble across a 2016 penny with a rare minting error or one of the special proof coins from that year, it could be worth significantly more than you might expect. In fact, certain error pennies from 2016 have sold for astonishing amounts, especially those in top-notch condition or with particularly rare flaws. For example, a 2016 penny with a significant minting error could easily fetch thousands of dollars at auction. However, one of the highest recorded sales for a 2016 penny occurred when a penny with a rare and well-documented error sold for as much as $18,000. That's right, this once ordinary 1-cent coin, which was produced in large numbers by the U.S. Mint, ended up commanding a price worthy of much more than its original purpose. It's a testament to how even the smallest details, like a misstruck design or an unusual flaw, can elevate a coin into the realm of extraordinary. And for those who might have a 2016 penny tucked away in their collection or loose change jar, it might be worth taking a second look. You never know, you could be holding a coin that could fetch you an impressive amount at auction, especially if it's one of the rare, error-struck versions or a well-preserved proof coin. Some 2016 pennies have been sold for as much as $18,000. Top 4. The 2022 USA 1-cent penny might not catch anyone's attention at first glance. It's small, familiar, and feels like just another coin you'd find rattling around in the bottom of your pocket or wedged between the cushions of your car seat. But beneath its ordinary appearance is a fascinating chapter in modern numismatic history, one that only becomes more intriguing as the details unfold. To understand what makes the 2022 penny so special, it helps to consider the context in which it was produced. By 2022, the United States had long been entrenched in a digital economy. More and more people were using cards, apps, and contactless systems to make payments. Physical coins, especially low-denomination ones like the penny, were becoming increasingly overlooked. Yet despite the growing push to retire the penny, the U.S. Mint continued its production. The reasons for this are rooted in both tradition and practicality. The penny, featuring the enduring profile of Abraham Lincoln, has been in continuous circulation since 1909. It's the longest-running coin design in American history, and over the decades, it's come to represent more than its face value. It holds a cultural significance, children collecting their first coins, the idea of a penny for your thoughts, and the age-old belief that finding one brings good luck. But in 2022, the penny stood on the edge of a modern transformation. Since 1982, pennies had been made primarily of zinc with a thin copper plating, a cost-cutting move intended to keep the price of minting each coin below its actual value. Even so, by the early 2020s, it cost more than 1 cent to make a 1-cent coin. This irony didn't go unnoticed. Lawmakers and economists once again began raising the issue of whether it made sense to continue producing the penny at all. Still, in 2022, the penny held its place in circulation. It featured the same iconic obverse design of Abraham Lincoln facing right, sculpted originally by Victor David Brenner. On the reverse, it displayed the Union Shield, an emblem first introduced in 2010, symbolizing national unity and strength. This modern design was meant to breathe new life into the penny and reflect an evolving sense of American identity, even as debates raged about the coin's future. From a collector's point of view, most 2022 pennies might seem unremarkable at first. They were struck in massive quantities across several U.S. mint facilities, including Philadelphia and Denver. Billions were produced that year, just like the years before it. The sheer volume might make one think there's nothing particularly special about them. But that assumption couldn't be further from the truth. What truly elevates certain 2022 pennies to collector status isn't their design or the metal they're made from, it's the imperfections. Specifically, it's the errors that occurred during the minting process that have drawn attention. In the world of numismatics, an error is a thing of beauty, a moment when the precision of machines slips just enough to produce something rare. And in 2022, several striking errors slipped through the cracks and made it into circulation. These include double die errors, off-center strikes, die clashes, and even coins struck on the wrong planchet. Each of these errors adds a layer of uniqueness to a coin that would otherwise be overlooked. For collectors, these mistakes are what turn a 1-cent piece into something far more significant. It's like discovering a printing error in a famous book or a rare stamp with inverted colors. Rarity, combined with curiosity, creates value. Take for example a 2022 penny struck off-center. A slight misalignment can produce a coin where part of the design is missing, giving it a surreal, incomplete appearance. Or a double-die penny from that year, where parts of the lettering or Lincoln's face appear to have been stamped twice, resulting in a ghost-like shadow effect. These small imperfections, often barely visible to the naked eye, are worth magnifying, literally. With a jeweler's loupe or a microscope, collectors pore over their coins in search of these anomalies. Some error coins also result from being struck on planchets meant for other denominations. These extremely rare occurrences create coins that are thinner, thicker, heavier, or lighter than normal. Such minting mistakes often happen during times of high production pressure or equipment maintenance and usually escape notice until they are already in the hands of the public. In 2022, several such coins were discovered, some already sold, others still being verified by professional grading services. Condition also plays a massive role in value. A 2022 penny pulled fresh from a mint roll and kept untouched will fetch far more than one that's been circulated. The highest quality coins are graded by professional services, who assign them a numeric value from 1 to 70. A mint state penny, especially one that is MS 67 or above, is already rare. Combine that pristine condition with a minting error, and the result is a coin that catches the eye of serious collectors. What makes the 2022 penny especially compelling is how it sits at the intersection of history and possibility. It's a coin from an era where cash is fading, where contactless payments dominate, and where the penny itself faces an uncertain future. Yet despite all that, this tiny, copper-colored coin continues to surprise collectors and investors alike that it's easy to forget that the US Mint still strikes billions of coins every year. But among those billions, there are always a few that slip through with errors, tiny imperfections that elevate a coin's value by thousands. For collectors, finding one is part skill, part luck, and part persistence. Searching through rolls of coins, visiting coin shows, bidding at auctions, it's a world driven by detail and obsession, and once in a while, that effort pays off. A lucky collector or sharp-eyed enthusiast stumbles upon a 2022 penny with a rare combination of minting error and perfect condition, and suddenly, the value of that 1-cent coin skyrockets. Some of these error coins, verified and professionally graded, have sold for as much as $11,000.